stay the same. I don't see how we're gonna finish with 40% either.
I don't have my last year's. Did we
I got it somewhere,
increase it?
I have it.
Right in front of you. Right over there. Yeah, so go under, well, it would be overall, look for the fuel under the administration building, which is Department 4170.
I think the prices were raised some because we knew fuel was going up. They've not raised it up.
Okay, and it's account 065. What was it in, okay, it was 20,000 last year,
Yeah.
20,000?
No, I'm sorry, 20,000 over actual dollars spent in 2010 was 15.8, and we appropriated 16,000.
Okay, so that's what we did for it. In 2010, we
Kept it about
kept it
at-
even at 16. We had it 16 last year.
I thought he said we appropriated 20 and spent.
No, what
No,
happens is
in
we.
2008,
in 2008,
it was 20.
Okay, it was 20, and in 2009, it was 11,000. 2010, it was 15, those were actual.
Okay.
And then the budget was 16 in 2010, and we kept it the same at 16. So there's no change in the budgeted amount.
Okay? Yes, Representative McCaffrey. I'm sorry, Representative McCaffrey and then Representative Conklin.
There was a question about what, I think Representative Babson asked about, did we raise the amount for fuel? And I know we did it for the jail, but they're still at 50-some-odd% in the first quarter. But I think we added 40 or 50,000 to the jail for fuel. But they're still at 50-something% for the first quarter.
Okay, so one of the answers to that is the commissioners say they pay an awful lot in the coldest part of the month of the year.
Right.
So January through March and April of this year is when the bulk of the transaction comes. Hopefully, December won't be all full, but that's how you do it when we're guessing. Representative McConkey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the commissioners, if I understood your conversation, our rate we're buying at is rack plus delivery and some other number. Is that what we're doing basically? Which would be standard. The tanks, we have a substantial amount of storage out there. Are we allowing them to deliver when they want to? Is there a trigger at 60% we start taking on propane?
They're on call, right?
It's pretty much my responsibility to make sure that the tank is full in my department. In the wintertime, it's often 5 days, 7 days, once a week basically, without a call to have it filled. I don't try to let it get below 30%. That's the guidelines that the technicians told me that they can hold in there. It brings about, I think it's 40% fills when they bring a tanker truck load at a time, and that fills it up about 40%. So if it does get down to around 30, 35, when we get a load, it puts us up to 70, 75% right in that area, and that's where the recommendations I've been given by the people from Eastern Propane.
Thank you. So if I could, to Will, if I could. So this time of year, we're not definitely taking on a tanker a week or so forth.
This time of the year, I think the last time I had called for one was maybe 3 weeks ago, and we don't need one for a few more weeks. So maybe once a month at most at this time of the year. I'd say even close to 4 to 6 weeks at this time where it's so hot like this.
Because our hot water is off our propane, right, in the nursing home, please, go ahead.
And you're an extremely busy man with an awful lot of jobs that we find out more every month. So I'm sure you don't have time in your deliberations to see where RAC is at this time of year, so we could possibly make a better decision.
I don't have, to be honest, I don't really have anything to do with the pricing wise. Just because I'm on the complex a lot, I come by a couple times a day in the wintertime or whatever, at least once a day, and check the level, and I call the business office, and they do the ordering.
Okay.
So I'm not aware of pricing wise.
Okay, thank you, Will.
It may be something that that what we need to do is look at the subcommittee to say, is there a way to be able to gauge when it's the lowest to pull in money? Pull in propane.
Pull in more propane?
Yeah, or when it's at the cheapest amount, but that's something that's a logistic thing, which is, I'm glad I don't have to keep track of it. Except in my own house. Okay, any further questions on administration building? Karen, did you have any more questions on that?
No, I just want to be sure that if what we're asking for the commissioners to do is to look at fuel across the board, is that correct? Or to see
Well, I
if we
would
want
assume
to
that-
change what we're doing, or,
The commissioners are looking at the whole complex, because that's, I assume to do that.
It's the
Will
whole
looks at,
complex.
the whole complex uses those tanks.
Yep.
And what would happen is that there may be, we're not asking them to change it now, because it's, what we're saying is the subcommittee may want to think about the fact is, let's see if we can set up something so that you can look at the price of propane, probably in the summer months or in the,
Take a
fall
larger
months.
delivery when it's the cheapest,
yes.
I guess. Is that what you're looking at, Mark?
If possible.
Yeah, and I think that the commissioners probably can do that, change a policy within their own, but we can look at it at the subcommittee level.
and, would it make sense to get another tank or two, so we don't have, call every 2 days to get fuel in the winter? Are there other things that we can do to make sense? I realize it only makes sense to receive a tanker full, because that's where you get the best price. But are there other options that might make sense in regards to storage?
Representative Babson, you are the chairman of that subcommittee on the commissioners. You've got a question, we can figure that one out to see whether it's a good policy to be doing. Go ahead, Commissioner.
The pellet furnaces will be coming online this fall, so that's going to drop our propane use, because the pellets will be the primary source of heat versus the propane, so the propane cost should go down.
Right, but the pellet cost be offset by the drops in the propane?
I think I was told that it's 43% more
About,
efficient.
just a little over 40% reduction in heating costs burning with pellets than propane.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so that's something that we should take into consideration as well, then.
Yes, I think that the subcommittee can look at it, the commissioners can come up with that, commissioners can look at that and see what's going on. Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to suggest as an alternative to purchasing more storage tanks that generally propane companies allow you to pre-buy at the current market rate, and then they'll just store it for you and deliver it when you want it. So I would also throw that out there as a possibility to look into.
Yeah, Representative Fluff.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also want Commissioner, whether or not anyone has actually looked at the rate of fluctuation or the degree of fluctuation that you've experienced over the year or years in propane. It seems to me that you're getting a fairly good price right now, but I'm just wondering, as we're talking about saving more money, which we want to do, how much have we actually experienced in fluctuating prices over, let's say, a year?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think Representative Babson, if you can get that information to the subcommittee, and you can look at it. Okay, any further questions on the administration building? Okay, and I take it the sheriff isn't going to come until 10, right? All right, we're at 24% expenditures for the administration building. Human Services Department, we have a lot of things that we have, Medicare Part D, apparently this is the only thing that we talked about, we're at 21%. Any questions?
No, it's DEAS, Madam Chairman.
Oh, DEAS, I'm sorry, I switched. Yeah. Yeah. So that we are at 21% of what we're doing for our elderly DDAs. Okay? 21% expenditures. Let's now go to maintenance, 4193. I think that's bills, we're at 20% expenditures. Again, if you look at the unemployment, it is way high because of the rate change. Are there any questions on the Representative Umberger?
No, I'm on the next one.
Okay, so 20% expenditures. Anybody, any questions?
Yes.
No?
My question is on the sewer system.
Okay, let's go to the 20% for the maintenance. Also, if anybody's in the audience and you're thinking that you want to talk about UNH extension, we're not talking about that today. Representative McConkey is having a public hearing tonight on it, so if any of you are here to talk about extension, you can do it tonight at 6. Thank you. You don't have to stay for it. Okay, sewer system. Any, Representative Umberger, you have a question?
Yeah, my concern was the maintenance and repair line, that we are at 80%. And I realize this must have been a one-time break or, something that occurred, but it is very concerning that I don't know where we are today, but this could in fact be a problem, I would think.
Do we have anything on maintenance and repair, Will?
Yes, ma'am. I was trying to answer the question over the email, but to give an update, I got an update today. Why that was at 80% was just input. The line below says labor costs, and there was labor costs got put into that line. They kind of got mixed. That's why one says 80 and one says 0. But realistically, the maintenance department, maintenance and repair should be at 15%, and the labor cost is at 54%. That's the difference of what happened. It just got inputted in the computer wrong.
Any other questions on that, on the sewer department for that? No? Okay. Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is backtracking just a little bit because we're talking a lot about the unemployment insurance cost, and something just came to mind as far as what we pay for our state unemployment insurance rate is determined about what's in our fund. And I was wondering if we've looked into that as far as how much we have in our unemployment fund and the amount that we contribute could possibly be lowered if that fund is high enough. Does our payroll company do that for us automatically?
Payroll company is Kathy, right?
So you are the payroll company, we don't farm it, we don't subcontract it at all?
Right, no, we process it through Primex, which process it through the state. But our utilization went up 4 times last year. So that's why the cost this year has to be reflective of it. I mean, we paid, like, in years past, 15,000, and now it's gone up to like 45, the actuals. So what they're actually paying out, we weren't paying to
So
cover
we
the
weren't
costs.
covering our
So
money.
now they've increased our rates to cover those costs, the actual costs,
Okay, so that was.
So plus the overall
funded-
economy, and they said within the area, has boosted our rates because people are applying for the unemployment that hadn't, former employees. So the actual expenditures, we are now currently going to be paying that as opposed to years past.
Well, we haven't been paying our
We
share of
haven't,
claim.
no, they've paid more than we've put in.
Yeah. So I doubt that our rates are gonna go down.
Okay, no, actually, that answered my question, was that fund had been depleted, and that's why it got raised, as opposed to us had put in too much, so maybe.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. It would be nice if we put in too much, but
Yeah.
that's not.
I was just hoping,
Yeah.
trying.
And again, Representative Babson, if you'll check on that workers' comp under the commissioners, so we can maybe figure out how it works for that way for a subcommittee, okay? Now, anybody want to go jail and house of corrections? That would be on the top of bottom of page 9. We are at 22%.